Alex, you and I watch a lot of anime on this show, but finally we're going to branch out a little bit and we're going to check out something else. This is a piece of French animation from a French filmmaker named Jeremy Perrine. He's a French dude. He's made a lot of interesting stuff in the past. He made a short little kind of web animation called Trekker's Delight a long time ago, probably around 2007, I think, 2010. He did the music video called Fantasy by a musician that's either D-Y-E or Die. I've never actually seen it pronounced or heard it pronounced. That was very popular on the internet quite a few years ago. And now he's back with his first feature film called Mars Express.
Sobriety mode activated.
Yeah, turn it off.
Both students disappeared. Could there be a common link?
This about the robot jailbreaking?
She tried to shut him off. The android's defending himself.
Deactivate! In breach of Directive 1.
Mars Express is tells the story of a private investigator named Aline and her partner Carlos. They were partners. Carlos is basically a downloaded version of a real human's consciousness that's installed on a robotic body. So he has all of his old memories up until he died, essentially. They were partners together when he was a human. He died during a robot uprising that occurred. And so they have mixed feelings on robots, in spite of the fact that robots are part of the life and times of Earth and Mars in 2200 AD. So our film begins with Aline being hired to track down a man's missing daughter who has gone missing from her college or university on Mars. And this leads to a bigger web of conspiracy regarding weapons manufacturing and consciousness of computers and robot cyborgs on Mars, in particular Mars, and is a whole very cyberpunky, very noir-ish story of organizations and government agencies scheming together with robots and humans caught in the middle of their ideologies and plans for the future. Alex, what did you think of the animation style of this film?
The animation style is I haven't watched many, if I could probably say if at all, French animation. This is probably one of the only ones I've ever seen, but I have read an okay amount of French comics, bande dessinée, I think they're called. And the art style is very similar to some of that. I own a copy of The Incal by Jodorowsky with the artwork done by Moebius, and it's very similar. Like when I started watching this, I'm like, yeah, this is very similar in that type of style. It almost has this kind of like, I don't know if I would say like rotoscoping or something similar to it, where like the human movement is very very similar to like realistic human movement.
Votre truc là, c'est pas possible. Un mandat, ça disparaît pas comme ça.
Oui, bah y a bien 2-3 moyens de le faire quand même.
Désolé, vraiment, j'ai pas de mandat au nom de Roberta Williams. Mais vous devez en avoir une copie, non?
C'est dans nos serveurs au bureau. Laissez-moi y accéder.
3 semaines que cette pourriture nous fait courir.
Eh mais... Apparemment, le mandat a été effacé de nos serveurs.
Pardon?
Oh, quel mystère. Bon, sinon on change de sujet, mais c'est pas illégal de menotter les honnêtes citoyennes?
Madame a raison.
Au revoir, merci.
I really enjoyed the animation style. It's nice to see, this being done hand drawn, probably, via computer.
Yeah, and
nobody does style anymore, but it doesn't have to necessarily look like CGI animation.
Oh,
which
absolutely.
I think is just perverse throughout like anything that's animated. When it's like when somebody says like animation, you and I always harken back to how it used to be and such like that. But now when somebody says that it's new and it's like, oh, okay, it's CGI, but you can still do hand drawn with computers. It doesn't just have to look 3D. You know, this was 2D.
Yeah, and I think that it's a nice blend of 2D and 3D techniques and digital animation and 3D animation. I also appreciate that while I think that there are, and just to be clear, this isn't rotoscoped. This is all just hand drawn animation. There's a few making of episodes on YouTube if you want to check it out. It's very interesting, cool stuff. And while this is anime-esque with their character designs, it's not like Teen Titans or Western animation that is just desperately trying to mimic anime, like Netflix shit.
Yeah.
This is like its own thing. And I can appreciate that.
It's a very French style of their animation, and you know it's their own take. The director's take on the, I would say, cyberpunk and noir Blade Runner. I was getting a lot of different vibes of Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, definitely. Cyberpunk also. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a amalgamation of all those types of things.
You can see all the fandoms that the director and the co-writer have, and Blade Runner's in there, of course, and lots of Ghost in the Shell stuff. But I like the original stuff that they do is interesting also. Like I really like the cat in the very first scene. It's not a completely original idea, obviously, but the way it's designed, with it has a skin that can come off, and then it's just like a little robot toy underneath. I thought that was really cool.
Oh là là, tu t'en es mis partout. Nikki, stop.
I liked the design work, as in the technology made sense in the world. It wasn't just there to look cool. There was a TV show, or at least streaming series that came out either a year or two ago, that was kind of similar to this, where it was sort of a futuristic Western animation series called Scavenger's Reign. I think I showed you a little bit of that a couple of weeks ago. Story notwithstanding, one of the bigger problems I had with it was that the design didn't make sense whatsoever, because these were biological creatures that who even in their own ecosystem, it didn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Where how the things ate, or how they hunted, or what their biology was just there to look cool and didn't make any sense to the world. And even show movies like Star Wars, which is pretty limited in stuff that's not just there to look cool. Like you think of the big asteroid worm in
Empire.
They
fly into Empire.
Right. What I get from that is this implies there are even bigger things floating out there in space, in the far depths of space, that this thing can feed on. And then inside of it, there's an entire little ecosystem of these Minocs that are like parasites, or just there because it's a symbiotic relationship where they can clean up things that aren't digested properly. Right. You know what I mean? So I can fill in those blanks very easily on my own. That TV show, I couldn't do that. I was just like, what the f- does that bird thing do that? It doesn't make any sense. So, but everything in this film made sense.
Right. What's funny, you talk about design. We mentioned other shows that kind of are similar. there's a scene where they are being chased in a tunnel, like Lower Wacker Drive, I could call it, and somebody shoots like a rocket at their car, and it ends up like, crashing and stuff, and this foam comes out inside the cabin of the car, and that's kind of like this crash safety thing, very reminiscent of a similar scene in Demolition Man, which even the car looked very similar to the kind of cars in there too. So there was a lot of, it's nice to see that they kind of don't have to go into the anime-ish looking type of design of things like that, and it's more of a grounded type of thing.
It's grounded and practical. Nothing's just super silly and like over engineered just to make it look cool. Like the little laptop at the beginning where that folds into 4 pieces, she just goes and it pops open and then it collapses. It's like that is an advanced version of things that are here today.
Yeah, like the folding smartphones that they've been working on for years,
and which are kind of bad still.
Yeah,
but in 100 years from now, I think
2022.
In 2200.
2200 shit. Okay. 2 years ago.
2 years ago we had but yeah, it's so I like that stuff a lot. The design stuff is cool. The animation is really fluid to look at. That's all great. The music is kind of subdued. I'll be honest. When I was waiting for you to get on tonight, I was listening to the soundtrack because I couldn't really remember what the soundtrack was. But then when I listened to it, I thought, oh, okay, it's kind of subtle. It's a very restrained. It's effective though. And when I listened to the soundtrack, I was thinking, oh, okay, I remember this. I remember the way the titles came up and what this track sounded like, and the mood. I had to be reminded of it, and then I thought, oh, okay. The mood, I think it helps with the mood just enough. It's not overwhelming to the film. I don't remember any like major musical moments.
Yeah,
in
it's
this.
more complimentary.
Right. It lets the animation shine.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be bombastic where you're just like, oh yeah, I remember this more for like the music thing.
Like, did you remember the music at all in particular? Or does anything stand out to you musically that happened in the film? Like, I'm trying to think of the ending. I saw this film a couple of months ago. It was in theaters. Alex just watched it on Blu-ray.
Yeah, the ending was this kind of like musical symphonic type of thing, which kind of reminded me of like the ends of like some, I mean, I don't want to compare it necessarily to other movies, but because it borrows so heavily from various types of films and genres, but it kind of felt like the end of like Space Odyssey or like The Matrix in some sense, like, you know, like it's kind of this. What did you think about the Android designs?
Like this, what we're
looking mechanical designs,
like we're looking at right here.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of a cool looking type.
It's got like this
it seems like
chicken thing going on. That's
I kind of feel like it was like they could be done like it was like a template almost similar to like the cat, where you can kind of take off the fur and you could put like, oh, I want like an orange cat today, or I want like this tabby, or I want like a different breed of cat. Like you could probably do the same thing with this type of like Android, where they could just put on like a skin suit.
Yeah, I just thought it was a nice practical design. Like it's not it's unique enough in sort of like the head and
being the sun, like a sensor cluster of some sort.
Right. And it's kind of like a oddly, it's both feminine but androgynous, you know, it's got these hips, but it has a male voice, you know, or seems to have a male voice.
It's David Bowie,
exactly.
As opposed to then like Carlos, which is clearly supposed to be like, you know, what he probably looked like when he was still living.
It was we're kind of segueing into not into story stuff here, but I was kind of I thought it was interesting that Carlos starts off as sort of the secondary lead, and then by the end he is the lead.
Yeah.
And I did not see that coming whatsoever. I thought that Carlos...
Yeah, that was very surprising the way that worked out.
I
was just
thought
like,
that Carlos was going to be the guy in the background the whole film with his own issues, and then
and he has a pretty decent B story himself.
Exactly. That's why I thought I was like,
his
oh,
family and stuff.
yeah, he's going to be the family human story, while this bigger corporate espionage thing is happening with Aline and the mystery she's investigating, which I think segues properly into the story, which I don't know how you felt, but I really loved the first. Let's say this movie is about an hour and a half long.
First half.
I like the first 80 minutes, and then the ending really lost me.
Following this scene here, would it be around? A little bit before that.
Yes, but generally what you're talking about, and I'll tell you why. I'm trying to beat around the bush here, but it just tonally did not match for me. Tonally, it was like we had this like cyberpunk adventure going on,
this like mystery type of,
and all of a sudden it just got way too brutal. And two, it didn't fit the tone of everything that came before it. And I know that is specifically why Jeremy Perrine did this, is because he wanted it to be kind of a mean-spirited thing at the end here, even though nothing tipped its hand to it being like this, in my opinion, for the first 80 minutes of the film. And then at the end, it's just a little too bleak for me. It's a little too cruel of an ending for me. For the first 80 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. I can't believe it. And then all of that just kind of gets kicked out because instead of being like this, like, oh, I can't wait to share this movie with everybody I know at the end of that film, I walked out of the theater being just kind of bummed out. Just kind of like, all right. Like, I liked it, but I really could have loved it. And I
I love the first 80 minutes.
Right. Well, I mean, how did you feel? Did you feel that way, or were you?
Yeah, I kind of felt like
it
definitely, like you said, it was a very abrupt type of like, it just, the story and the tempo and everything just kind of hit this brick wall around this, like this particular scene, which is a good thing you have it up. It's like right after this is just like, oh, okay, it's going to be a completely different type of feeling and message and like
right, and then
going on afterwards,
and then the whole denouement from there is weird too, and to the point where I was like, at the end of the movie, I was like it was like the Homer Simpson clip where he's like, "I'm confused, Marge. Is this a happy ending or a sad ending?"
Marge, I'm confused. Is this a happy ending or a sad ending?
It's an ending. That's enough.
It kind of felt more like I guess the more modern-esque detective noir thing was very similar to like what a lot of like modern European police dramas are sort of like.
And I mean, to be fair, a lot of Western noir does have the hero who doesn't know what's going on, never has a handle on what's actually happening, is always playing catch up, and then gets punished for it at the end in some way, shape, or form, whether that's being set up for a murder. You know, there's a lot of that goes on. I know what it's doing. I know why it's doing it. I just don't like it, you know? And that's what I felt, where I was sort of like, I really liked this movie, but I could have loved it. And I really wanted to love it.
Yeah,
so.
It could have been like, I mean, it went the way, like the best case scenario is like, it could have played out similar to like Godzilla, where Godzilla -1 could have had this type of, you know, ending, you know, and it didn't. And you leave the movie much better spirits than this.
Yeah, exactly. So anyhow, now that we've totally beat around the bush this entire time, Alex, how many pots of gold would you give Mars Express?
I kind of played around between. I probably would end up just giving it.
Do you want me to go first?
2.5.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd probably just end up giving it 2.5. I liked everything, the animation, you know, the action, the characters, you know, the dialogue, art design. Unfortunately, yeah, like you said, that the ending was a bit of a kind of a, you know,
It's just a
I'll
bummer.
let that. Yeah, like you're just kind of like, I'm not like feeling anything emotion wise with this anymore up until this point, and I'm just kind of like leaving it just like, that was something, that was an ending. Also, not to really like poo poo on it, but it's like a lot of the genres and stuff like that. Like I've like in the beginning, I kind of felt like I've seen this movie, or at least some version of the same story in some sense, like Ghost in the Shell, because we like this type of stuff, but it's like it's another thing that's kind of like Ghost in the Shell, kind of like Blade Runner, kind of like I had mentioned before. It borrows, and I think it's kind of just an issue of like this, I guess, genre you would say, like cyberpunky type of android thing. So
I am tired of the Down with Robots storyline where it's like, we have to like do some kind of weird civil rights story where robots aren't respected.
Yeah,
I'm over that.
Thing, yeah.
We can cyberpunk and science fiction needs to move past that trope because it's been done to death. Everybody gets it. It's fine.
Yeah,
move on.
And that's also that type of like robot uprising type of thing. You know, any of that type of stuff. It's also in people like another popular franchise is Dune. Like that robot uprising type of thing is another major catalyst for a lot of the events prior to the Dune thing and stuff like that. So a lot of people use it. Yeah, Man versus Machine.
Sure. Which is something I like about Ghost in the Shell is that by and large that property cybernetics is already established and accepted.
Right.
And it's like fringe groups that they're not trying to go against robots. They're just like, we refuse. It's sort of like Christian Scientists. It's like, we refuse technology. Like, yes, your cyber brain could have saved your son, but you don't believe in using cyber brains, so your son died. Like that's like how they deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I also kind of got a little bit of since you mentioned it, I kind of got a little bit of a Bato Kusanagi type of relationship between Aline and Carlos.
Yeah. Totally. I am very conflicted, just like you are, but I can't because I'm going to give it 3 pots of gold. And the reason being is that even though I have major problems with the ending, I can't in good conscience be too hard on it because it is Western adult-focused animation that is trying to do something interesting with 2D animation in a motion picture form. And even if it's stumbling a bit, it is still an admirable work, and I enjoyed most of it. I just really wished it could have stuck the landing and done something special there instead of being kind of both cliche and like cliche, obvious, and cruel. It was like nothing about it was shocking to me. It was just more like,
It really? Didn't have to be in this
why
case.
Would you do why would you do that? Yeah. You could have not done that, and it would have been a much better film. So but worth checking out. Highly recommended.
Yeah, still, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just to see what hopefully something like this says. Because did it get an award at Cannes? I think there was like a little. Was it like a special selection or something? It was
programmed as part of the 76th Cannes Film Festival, but it did not win anything.
Oh, okay, but it got some word of mouth at least.
Yeah,
which hopefully this will prompt other studios, and you don't have to be one of the major studios in Hollywood to do this, but hopefully there will be some sort of independent film studios that will be willing to go and make at least some attempt at animated films.
Like, I'm curious because its budget was 9 million euros and its box office was $1.5 million. But my question is, that's just from
the US.
The US. So what was the French? Yeah, that's just the G Kids run, which is pretty good in my opinion. Oh wait. Oh no.
Purveyors of fine Ghibli material.
No, that was everything.
Oh, it was everything.
That's everything. That's France.
Oh.
Russia, New Zealand, and the United States.
What an odd.
Sorry, I guess I could actually show what I'm looking at. So we have domestic, as in the United States, release was $200,000.
Okay.
Which makes
so it was
sense.
Limited release, right?
Oh yeah, I think it was only for like 2 nights, also maybe, or maybe it was like 1 week. But so United States 200,000, France 1.1 million, and then Russia and New Zealand. So total worldwide gross is 1.5 million on a budget of 9 million euros. That is not great. And that's the problem. Oh, you're not. Sorry, I was on the wrong screen. You're not even like. That's so. It's because then that means people get scared of making this kind of stuff again.
Yeah, because there's no profit in it.
Yeah. So.
Which then again, I mean, you also have studios in Hollywood that are putting in, $150 million budgets, $200 million budgets on films, and they, make less than break even. So.
Well, an R-rated adult 2D animation is a hard sell for most Western audiences. To be fair.
Yeah, they tend to end up becoming more like cult classic-y type of things, like heavy metal.
Yeah. And even that, I don't think was a fine box office success.
No. Or what is it? Fire and Ice is another one.